Hello everybody, Jonathan Rayo here with Simplified Guitar, and in this lesson I want to talk about two very common bad habits when it comes to strumming and rhythm. If you can fix these two bad habits, it's going to massively improve your strumming quality. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. So the first bad habit that I notice a lot of people make has to do with moving the strumming hand at different speeds in the middle of the song. The problem with this is that it's very inconsistent and it can break the rhythm of your playing. When you're strumming, you want to keep the rhythm and the timing with your strumming hand. So it's very important that this hand is always moving in tempo. Now you can vary up the types of strumming that you're doing in order to create some variety in the pattern. So when it comes to strumming, a good rule to keep in mind is that we want to have our hand moving down on the beats. So if we set a metronome, every time we hear a click, our hand is going to be moving down on those beats, and it's going to be moving up in between beats. And that idea, we want to keep our hand moving to the tempo in that way. Now, this is true even if we decide to eliminate some down strums. So maybe sometimes on some of the beats, we don't want to actually strum down, but our hand should still be moving to that tempo because it's going to help you to stay in time and to keep that rhythm and the feel of the song while you're playing. So let me give you an example of this. The strum pattern, the universal pattern, this is a pattern that I use in a lot of my song tutorials. For this strum pattern, there are some beats that we don't want to strum down on, but we should still have our hand moving down. Now, first, I want to show you the way that I see a lot of people do this type of pattern or any pattern where some of the down strums are eliminated. And then I'm going to show you the right way to do it. So in this wrong example, you'll notice that our hand is only moving when we're supposed to be making a strum. And again, that is completely disregarding the entire tempo and rhythm of the song. This hand should be acting almost like a physical metronome, keeping that tempo. So it's a really good idea to learn how to do this and to keep that hand always moving with the tempo. And in the future, whenever you're really good at guitar, then you can try to break away from those patterns and do some other types of techniques. The second bad habit I see with a lot of students is strumming all 6 strings with the same amount of intensity with every single strum. And this creates like a very robotic and monotonous sound that's not very pleasing. It's very important for you to know that you don't have to strum all 6 strings for every single strum. Now, if you are so meticulous about making sure that you're strumming all the strings, you're going to sound very monotonous and very rigid. So in order to fix this, we need to add some dynamics to our strumming where we are fluctuating between intense strums and softer strums. For the intense strums, yes, we can strum all 6 strings. But for the softer strums, we can strum maybe 2 or 3 strings or something like that. Again, there's no hard set rule, but the idea is that we're creating some dynamics of hard and soft. And when we get to the soft, maybe it's 2 strings, maybe it's 3 strings. That's not that important if it's 2 or 3 or 4, but it just needs to be soft and it doesn't have to be all 6 strings all the time. And the same thing goes for the upstrum. A lot of strum patterns have an upstrum at the end. So right before we repeat the pattern again, we do an upstrum right before we get back to beat 1. That upstrum should never be all 6 strings, okay? Doing an upstrum with all 6 strings sounds too intense. That upstrum just needs to be a little bit of an accent that kind of gives us a little bit of verbal indicator that we're starting the pattern over again. So typically what I'll do with an upstrum is just strum maybe the bottom 3 strings or something like that, the high-pitched strings. That was just 3 strings, I think, maybe 4. And it's always going to be a little different. Sometimes it'll be 2, sometimes it'll be 3, sometimes it'll be 4. But the point is that it's a light strum. I'm not making sure that I'm strumming all 6 strings. And by fluctuating from the hard strums and some soft strums and just doing a really soft accent, upstrum at the end, you can really add some life and some fluidity to your strumming. And another tip that goes along with not strumming all the strings all the time is depending on what chord you're playing. And this is very important. If you're playing a chord where the low E string is not a part of the chord, you need to make sure not to strum that string, okay? So if we're in the key of G, let's say, and I'm playing a G chord, then, you know, I want to make sure I hit that low E string. But if I switch to the C chord or C add 9, I need to start my strumming on that A string and make sure that I'm not strumming that low E string. And this is very important, but I hear a lot of times when beginners are playing or students are playing, they forget about this and they just let that E string resonate no matter what chord they're playing. And it really muddies up the chord a lot. So this is something that you really need to pay attention to. And you can take a look at the chord diagram, and when there's a minus sign on top of the E string or the A string or any string for that matter, you want to make sure that you're not strumming that string when you're playing that chord. All right, I hope this lesson really helps you improve your strumming, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. Take care.